50. Bugs Bunny and Taz Time Busters. The Looney Tunes are some of the most recognisable characters to ever exist, even when poorly translated to 3D. Ugly or horrifying as they may look, a fair amount of the Looney Tunes games were decent.
Time Busters
Was one of the ones that I played with my sister, and we both 100%ed it when we were younger. And we enjoyed it from beginning to end. Replaying it as an adult, it looks and feels a whole lot different, but my inner child is screaming with joy. The story starts with Daffy Duck arriving to exterminate some mice for Granny, who is now a Time Lord of some kind? In Grandma's house, she has a machine that keeps time in order. Daffy, of course, breaks the time stabilizer thingy, which causes time to fall out of sync, meaning you and a partner can take on the roles of Bugs and Taz as you travel through time to solve puzzles, fight foes, and use team moves to right Daffy's fuck up. A lot of humour and sometimes creative moments make casual appearances, and the puzzles do require both players to work as a team to overcome. Not a fantastic game by any means, but it's not a bad one either. "49. Starbound. Have you ever wanted to travel the galaxies in your own spaceship and live a life among the stars? Starbound will help you do just that. And you have no choice, as Earth has been destroyed. After making your character, you take on the role of a peacekeeper who now travels space to do whatever you want. Do quests to save the universe, become a trader and visit ships to, well, trade goods, go exploring, build and run a block of flats, build a dream home, live the simple life of a farmer, go mining with a mech suit, whatever your little heart desires. As simple as it looks, the universe is huge, and you can explore the entire thing, and every planet that you get to stand on also has just as much to discover. Minerals to harvest, enemies to fight, and potential home sites. Basically, a lot to do, and you can bring up to 3 other players with you and travel together to see what secrets, both good and bad, the universe holds. 48. Terraria. If the idea of Starbound sounds fun, but sci-fi isn't your thing, Terraria is a suitable alternative. With a higher focus on fantasy and less on plot, Terraria sees you playing in a world where your task is to simply grow in strength and hunt down the bosses that plague the world. As you expand your base, you can move in residents who will offer up many services, or friends to help you explore the world and gather resources to grow in power. There are a large number of items to find and create, as well as dungeons to raid. While it may not offer everything Starbound does, it does offer an equal amount of fun and interesting elements to keep the game addicting and great from the get-go. Then, when you've killed the hardest world boss, you can experience its version of New Game Plus, which gives you even more items, materials, enemies, and bosses to discover and conquer. I personally am hoping that one day I can gather a full party and complete both Terraria and Starbound in their entirety with a team. 47. WrestleMania 19. Another great title from THQ. WrestleMania 19 offers up a new way to go over the top with wrestling. Its combat engine is well designed, and with it you can pull off some of the most hectic and glorious matches ever. It also made fighting multiple opponents the easiest it's ever been. The creator modes have been vastly improved upon, and you saw just how in-depth the combat system was in the create a moveset mode. What made 19 stand out though, was its revenge mode, where you take control of any wrestler you want, and take revenge on Vince after he fires you from the WWE. How do you do this? Well, by destroying whatever projects he has going. And you can do this by inflicting destruction in the construction yard, beating up and possibly killing his lackeys, and just causing havoc wherever Vince owns property. It's a unique and fantastic mode to play through with a lot of stunts that you would never ever see on a real wrestling show. A must play for wrestling fans. "46. The Division 2. The apocalypse has taken many forms. Zombies, nuclear war, nuclear zombies. Division looks at it in a what is now a way too real situation, where a virus has caused society to collapse and it's now up to an organisation known as the Division to keep order and deal with the scum that threaten the peaceful. You play as a member of the Division as you take on gangs and terrorists to try and restore some sort of civility to America. At its core, it's a sort of MMO dungeon diving game. You'll enter hubs and safe zones where you'll bump into other players and you can team up to go into what is basically dungeon diving. You'll enter areas with the objective of making it to the end alive. On the way you'll encounter enemies and bosses to beat while collecting new gear to power yourself up. You also will gain access to fancy toys to fine-tune your playstyle and build to support your team of up to 3 friends. My only real issue with the game is the story. As a silent protagonist, it's hard for me to feel like I'm part of the story when it's happening around me and the characters talk past me, like I'm just some sort of background NPC. Outside of the cutscenes though, I really enjoyed taking on the enemies with friends and finding the combinations to make myself as powerful an asset as possible, as well as exploring the ruined world that was once America. Now granted, there isn't too much to find, and most of the time you find trouble, but with the Division in the state that it is now, there is a lot more to discover than when it was released, and once again, I'm hoping I can find a dedicated team to go through the entire thing soon. '45. Rugrats Search for Reptar. A second game based on the same kids show? Yes, because I am 32 going on 18 who is also extremely immature. So the short and odd way that I can describe this game is like a clip show. You know, in some shows when it's inevitable that the characters will start reminiscing about the past so they play clips from old episodes? Search for Reptar kinda does that. The goal of the game is to find all the pieces of the Reptar puzzle. In order to do so, you'll need to complete levels that are based loosely on the episodes from the series. Playing said levels is tricky as the up too close and personal camera struggles to keep up with the hard to control child. Now that I think about it, accurately portraying a real child. Is it a good time? No. Is it a bad game? Not really. I admit, this entry is fueled purely by childhood nostalgia and bias, and the good times I had playing it with my sister. I remember sitting down with my sister and trying to find all the secrets, noticing all the Easter eggs, and the potential brain damage we would give to Tommy while trying to navigate the world. But for us, our favourite part, as anyone who's played and finished this might know, is the strange out of nowhere final level with the what the fuck ending. 44. Tekken 6. As I stated when I spoke about Tekken 3, I am not a massive fighting game fan, and I'm still not sure if I qualify as casual. I can't predict the moves of the AI, I can't perform infinite combos, I don't know how to count frames to moves exactly to perfectly time that perfect money shot, but I can still find enjoyment in some fighting games regardless. 6 is another one of these games. The fighting does feel better to me than it did in 3, and of course, with new moves and character customization, this just added more for me to enjoy. Primarily though, 6 appeals to me for the improved upon, if still flawed, Tekken Force mode. While its 2D fight mechanics still pose a significant disadvantage to players, you're now able to maneuver yourself somewhat better and you'll be escorted by an AI partner to help out, or if you go online, a co-op partner. If you can find anyone playing in 2023. Not only that, but you can earn money and clothing items while you play this mode to boost your abilities and create a build to try and help you get an edge in combat, so long as you don't mind your preferred fighter looking like they were vomited out of the Met Gala's rejected outfit wardrobe. '43. Simpsons Hit and Run. A game so good that a fan-made remake has players hyped. Hit and Run somehow took the GTA formula and masterfully used it to great success. Starring the cast of The Simpsons, the plot will see you playing as 5 of the iconic characters as you try and solve the mystery of the surveillance camera drones that have begun to infest the city. Now, one problem I've always had with Simpsons games is that the writing often goes out of the ordinary of a Simpsons episode, taking a direction that you would most likely see in an episode of South Park or Amazing World of Gumball. And sad to say that problem does also happen in Hit and Run, but it's not as bad as it has been in other titles. And even though it does this, Hit and Run offers up a lot for players to enjoy and be rewarded with. The humour is great, the references aren't overused, a huge collection of cars is yours to enjoy, unlockable costumes make situations more ridiculous, challenging missions keep you engaged all the way through, and there's even an exclusive Itchy and Scratchy episode that you can unlock, which was made just for the game. The original version will always be an unexpected belter of a good time. '42. Legacy of Kain: Blood Omen 2. The Legacy of Kain series has been forgotten by modern gaming companies. Back in the day though, it was a dark and delightfully twisted popular series of gothic fantasy. The graphics are a little dated, even for when it was released, but that is just one of its two biggest weaknesses. Its second is that the cutscenes can be long and overdramatic with no visual excitement outside of a few camera cuts between the speakers while they're cycling through set animations and staying in the same place longer than a chess piece. No flashbacks, very few uses of fancy camera angles, but the cutscenes are just boring to watch most of the time. The rest of the game is well crafted with a fluid and effective combat system, puzzles to solve, and an army of increasingly challenging foes for you to slay. You'll also get to experience vampiric powers, fancy blood-sucking, a spine-tingling soundtrack, and an enjoyably cheesy and drama-filled storyline, all fantastically performed by the voice actors, with Simon Templeman delivering a killer performance as Kain.
What manner of creatures have you been practicing on? Dull mortal fools, with their minds full of commerce and dung? My mind is far too strong for your powers.
I was alone at last, in a city changed beyond all recognition, in a land that was under a curse. Should I follow her, as she asked, or go my own way, find my own answers?
But I always knew you for a sneaking, cowardly opportunist. How unfortunate that my poor aim caused you so much suffering. This time, you will die completely, I promise you.
Now, at the risk of sounding snobbish, the Legacy of Kain series isn't for everyone because of how deep it goes with its lore and use of language, which only gets more involved and complicated as the series expanded. If, however, you are interested in trying to get involved yourself, Blood Omen 2 isn't a bad place to start, as it is the easiest to follow along with, and you don't need to know too much about its previous lore to understand what's going on. '41. Point Blank. A crazy shooting game that shares kind of similar vibes to Bishi Bashi Special. Up to 2 players take part in a series of, no pun intended, quick-fire mini-games that will vary in objectives where your goal is to simply be better than your opponent or stroke your own ego with a high score. A lot of the objectives repeat themselves, but the list of presentations is extensive enough to stop it feeling stale quickly. Its bizarre style makes it humorous to view, and if you're playing on the arcade cabinet, the feeling of shooting cardboard ninjas, or destroying wildlife, or engaging in violent counting feels so much better with an animated light gun in your hands. If playing on the PlayStation 1 without a light gun, the experience is soured a little as your aim is slower by default with a controller, and some of the challenges are near impossible to pass. On the plus side though, you will get a bunch of extra modes, including a surreal and comedic adventure mode to try, yet the arcade version will always be the superior one in my eyes.